Digital art, taking a couple of pictures that are okay and making something magical. Let's do this. Okay, so I love this picture of the hummingbird. I just didn't like the bit on the side, the flower bit. So I found another picture of, well, I think it's like a lily type thing. It's on water, I think. And I've taken that, span it around a little bit, put them together. It's called a composite, it's digital art. What are you gonna do? It's one of them things. Some people like them, some people hate them. Just is what it is. So I'm gonna show you how to easily combine these two. I'm gonna take the hummingbird out of the one image, place it into the other image, do a little bit of Photoshop magic and create something spectacular. Hopefully you like this. Let's get into Photoshop. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop. This hummingbird picture is amazing, it's very sharp. I'm going to select it using the select subject. Obviously it's selected the flower as well, which I don't want, so I'm going to deselect that. I'm just going to use the quick wand tool and just hold down the Option or Alt button and deselect all the things I don't actually need. And now I'm going to zoom in and reselect the bits I do need. So obviously there's bits that are missing. I want to select them again. Make sure I've got a very good selection. I'm going to fast this forward so you can see what I'm doing. I am just using the lasso tool. I'm not using anything else. Just to keep things really simple. Let's speed this up. So now I have my selection. I'm going to refine the edge. There's quite a bit of work to do here because the feathers were not, I mean, obviously the wings are flapping and the shutter speed isn't always going to be fast enough to capture it, you know, dead freeze especially the tips of the wings. So we have to do a little bit of creative work here. We're going to understand that it's going to show a little bit in our background. So we have to remember that when we come to the background a little bit later. For now, again, I'm going to speed this little section up. You know what to do. Use all the tools in the refine edge that you have to get the best edge that you possibly can. You see I'm adding and taking away a few bits and pieces here. You just have to work with whatever picture you have. Then once you have the awesome image cut out, you can then apply that layer mask because we won't need it later. We're going to add it to the other picture. Let's head over to the other picture now. So on this picture we've got a bit of work to do. We're going to spin a few things around. So we're going to go and go to transform and rotate 90 degrees. We're going to recrop because obviously we're losing a little bit. And this isn't quite right for me. I think the flower is leaning over a little bit too far. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of creative cropping here in a second. And then we're probably going to have to add a few bits back in. You see it looks like it's leaning down. My hummingbird isn't facing up. I want my hummingbird to look like it's in the right location. And not like leaning back because it wouldn't be able to, you know, hover and fly. So I'm just going to rotate this ever so slightly so it looks a little bit more vertical rather than the flower itself facing down. But now I've got a problem because now I've got areas that don't have anything in them, so we need to work out what we're going to do with that. The best and most efficient option is to use the content aware scale. Now if you hold down the shift key you can drag this across as far as you can and it will do a very good job of filling those spaces in. Look at that, that's pretty good. And we can actually do the same thing for this little bit of a corner just here. Drag that across. Now go to edit and content. That's content aware fill we're going to use this time. We're just going to fill this area up with what it thinks should be going in there. And we're just going to hit OK. And that's absolutely fine. It's going to be a little bit darker when we finish this anyway, so it's all good. Now we're going to scale this image just a little bit because I think it's a bit too big for the hummingbird that's going to be dropped in. I don't want to resize the hummingbird any bigger, so I'm going to make this image slightly smaller so it's a better size for our hummingbird. Have a play around, position it where you need to. Your image, obviously, if you're going to do this, is going to be slightly different to mine. I'm going to give the hummingbird a slightly different angle than what it was in the original picture, just to make it look a little bit more like it's actually taking some, I don't know, nectar. I don't know if hummingbirds take nectar. I don't know. Whatever's in that flower, it's eating something. There's a bug in there. Let's just pretend that. Now, to make it look like the beak is going behind this petal, I am just going to mask out this little bit here and just add a quick mask, and boom, gone. So it looks like it's going inside the flower petal rather than it being on the outside and being in front of it. Just make your selection and hit the mask button, and there you have it. Now it's time to get a little bit creative, so we're going to turn off the hummingbird quickly, and we are going to work on the background just for a second. Let's turn that off. And we are going to add an exposure adjustment layer. Really simple. Bring the exposure down on the background. Use the gamma correction as well in conjunction with the exposure, and you get a really nice looking image, exposed darker than what it is. And now what we're going to do is take a brush on the mask and just dab over the flower. Obviously that's 100%. That's a bit too much. Let's go back, bring the flow right down a little bit, and just dab over the flower. We're now emphasizing the flower, bringing some of that exposure back in just the flower. And now I'm just going to go over some of the petals. That's maybe a bit too much, I don't know. Let's go back a few and bring the flow down a little bit more. And go back over the petals individually and bring those out, and just emphasizing them really. Again, make your brush bigger, dab over the middle, and pretty good. Not too bad at all. Now I'm going to just add a normal layer above this one and turn it into linear dodge add mode, and this is going to give the flower a little bit, oh, and I've got a pink colour, a darker pink. This is going to give the flower a little bit of a punch to the colours, gives it a little bit of a luminosity burst, and it actually looks pretty cool. I hope you agree. Now time to turn the hummingbird back on and start working on the hummingbird. So we're going to do a similar sort of thing. We're going to add an exposure layer just above the hummingbird. We're going to clip it to the hummingbird. That's holding down the option key between both layers. And that is now going to work just on the hummingbird. So I'm going to use the exposure and gamma correction just to bring the exposure down ever so slightly, so it kind of matches the background, if you like. But then I'm going to do a similar thing as I did with the flower. So I'm going to take like a black brush now and just go over very finely with this brush and just bring some exposure back in the bird in certain areas, so it gives it a kind of almost dodge and burn look, and it looks pretty cool. I hope you agree. And now I'm going to take a green color, hold down the option key with the brush, choose a green color, and do a similar thing I did before. We're going to add a little bit of a punch behind the hummingbird just to bring the hummingbird out of the image. We're going to turn this again to linear dodge. It's going to give a bit of punch. It's a very dark green, but with linear dodge it actually adds a little bit of like luminosity, a little bit of brightness in the background of the hummingbird. As you can see, the difference already is pretty amazing. But the problem is, as this is on top of the flower layer, it has affected the flower, so I need to take that away. So I've added that mask now. I'm just going to gently mask over the flower, take some of that green away from the flower because I don't want it to affect the petals. And you can see what I mean by that. Now time to do something a little bit radical with the background colour, because the petals aren't quite the colour I want them to be. So I want to change them to a red. Because the hummingbird is green, I'm going to change it. I know this flower maybe doesn't come in red, I don't know. I'm not a flower expert, not a florist, never have been, never professed to be. But I do want the flower to be red, in contrast with the green of the background and the green of the hummingbird. That's the general idea. A little bit of contrasting colours. Let's go with that. And because I've put this layer above the background of the flower layer, it's changed that colour too, which is pretty awesome. So now we're going to convert this whole thing into a check layer. So I've Control Command Option E, and now I'm going to work on the camera raw filter, which is going to give this a bit of a pop. This will be different for every image. The sliders I use here won't be the sliders that you're potentially going to use, or you may not use as much as I do, or use less or more or whatever. You just have to have a play around with the sliders. I'm reducing exposure, adding some contrast, and playing around with the rest of the sliders just to get that effect that I'm looking for. You see that the corners are going really, really dark. That's fine, because I'm going to add a vignette in a second in-camera raw filter because I prefer doing it in here. So those dark areas won't be as noticeable as they are now. Again, I'm going to fast this forward because there's a few bits and pieces in here that you probably know all about already. There's a bit of colour grading going to happen, and obviously the vignette. I'm going to add a radial filter as well, so just have a quick watch, but I'm going to fast this bit forward. Now I'm pretty much done. I hope you agree this is a really good little project, and if you like this video, hit a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so, and hit the notification bell so you get updates every time I upload a video. Love you guys, see you soon. Hi, I'm Andy, and I'm here to tell you about my new online landscape photography academy. It's not your traditional online photography course, it's also a mentorship program. Many of you most likely know me from my YouTube channel, and if you enjoy my process of getting an awesome image from the landscape around me, you can learn to do that too. So, how does it work? After signing up for the Landscape Academy, you will immediately receive access to all lectures taking you through every aspect of landscape photography. From beginner courses through to intermediate and onto the more advanced photographic techniques. At the end of each lecture, you'll be provided an assessment to progress you through the steps of creating an appealing image from beginning to end. After submitting each assignment, you will receive a handcrafted personal feedback video on your progress, giving you actionable steps to take your work to the next level. These mentorship sessions continue as you build your skill set from beginner to advanced landscape photography. By the time you finish the course, you will have hours of personal video feedback crafted especially for you. Additionally, the entire Landscape Academy is self-paced and you have a lifetime access to all of the content. So there's no need to worry about deadlines or losing access to the content after an arbitrary amount of time. You may want to skip the Beginner 1 course if you have a basic understanding of photography and a good grasp of camera settings. But if you're an absolute beginner, fear not, this course is designed to get you started from scratch. If you want to sign up and get more information, just click the link below or check out the Academy link on my website.